why is gold so precious? Like why?
For thousands of years, it is used as a currency.
How much percent of the portfolio do you think we should have in gold?
10%, on aggressive side 15%.
Do you actually buy physical gold when someone invests in ETFs and gold funds?
We do buy physical gold. If anything happens to that particular gold, the same is insured, so there is no risk involved.
We see tariff wars of sorts, we see Russian and Ukraine crisis, all of that. Gold has somewhere given stability throughout in any crisis that we've seen.
We have seen a fantastic rally, like 40% रिटर्न अगर हमने गोल्ड का देखा है, कितने लोगों को मिला अगर मैं पूछूंगा, right? People have not made that return.
Few rapid fire questions. Hello and welcome to Axis Mutual Fund's new podcast series. Here we're covering a extremely precious metal. This metal has been spoken about and it's a part of our history since centuries. So before we get into the topic, let me introduce both our guests here. We have Vikash. So Vikash has been, was one of the team members who kind of started gold ETFs in India. So he really has a lot of information. And here we have Prateek. Prateek is a fund manager who looks at commodities with Axis Mutual Fund. So welcome both of you all.
Thank you.
So let's get into the topic straight up. So my first question and first thought that kind of came to me was, why is gold so precious? Like why? Do you have a point of view there?
Yes, Gushu, thanks for the invite. Gold is considered or called as Hiranya in our Sanskrit. And if you go to Vedas, the Atharva Veda calls the earth as Hiranyavaksha. Hiranyavaksha means the one with a chest of gold. You also know that gold is not part of earth. It actually came through one of the asteroids, of course, millions of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's why it's so rare. Okay, and we connect, in fact, when we get up in the morning, there is one Subhashit, Sanskrit Subhashit that we chant that, Samudra Vasane Devi, Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnupatni Namastubhyam, Padas Sparshang Shamaswami. यानी the first feet, मैं पहले पैर जो ज़मीन पे रख रहा हूँ, वो रखने से पहले भी मैं पृथ्वी को नमन करता हूँ as a Lakshmi, as a Lakshmi यानी gold का part. So we actually considered Lakshmi, earth associated with each other. Not only that, it's a sign of prosperity, a sign of wealth, sign of power. For thousands of years, it is used as a currency. In fact, the first SIP of our Dadi and Nani was done through gold.
Wow.
Because every year, every
Good way to
festival,
say it out
they bought gold, and that actually became helped when we were in trouble, right?
Yeah, so true.
So in fact, gold has been praised by poets. It has been lusted by bankers, and it is fought by kings also, right? So gold has a lot of people have passion about it because it's considered as a Lakshmi for us.
Wow, interesting points. Prateek, what about you?
Gold has been trusted as a precious metal for centuries, and it has seen a lot of economic cycles of ups and downs. It has various industrial uses. It is primarily used for jewelry. It is used in medical equipments. It is used in automobile, aerospace, and so on and so forth. The importance of gold in one's portfolio is very, very high because we need some allocation of a portfolio in gold. Be it 10% or 15%, one can decide that when they are building their own portfolio. Price doesn't matter actually because you need to have that asset class in your portfolio. So you just need to have some allocation to gold.
Do you know that investors generally buy gold funds generally when the prices are already like risen to 20%?
It doesn't matter when anybody is buying. You just need to stick to the idea of your portfolio allocation. If your allocation is low and you have some cash free, you just end up buying. If you'll keep seeing the price and if you'll keep chasing the lows and highs, you will never end up getting the allocation to a specific number which you have in your mind.
Absolutely.
So your allocation is if your mindset is that your allocation should be at 10%, you just need to stick to that idea and make sure that that allocation is at 10%. Or if it is at 15%, you just stick to that idea that I'll keep 15% come what may.
Gold has played, as Vikash also kind of covered, it's played a big role in currency since years. So what are your views there in terms of currency?
Primarily, all the countries around the globe used gold as a hedge for their currency. They valued their currency with the amount of gold they had, and then they printed the currency and then it went into circulation. This was directly pegged to the gold. So basically, they would set a rate and then they would also exchange that currency for that amount of gold. But now this concept is over since 1970. So now the countries are investing in gold as part of their overall strategy. They have foreign assets, they have multiple assets, multiple currencies. So primarily 47 to 48% global currency is with US securities and US dollar. The second, now gold has overtaken euro with 19 to 20% and euro stands at 16%. So this itself says that gold is the best asset class currently after US treasuries.
Absolutely.
In ancient days also, if you see, we find gold coin reference also almost 8,000 years ago, kind of Rigveda's era.
Wow.
You know, whether it is Indus civilization, whether it is Mohenjo-daro civilization also, we find jewelries, coins of gold has been used. You know, if you look at the interesting fact about we connect gold with Lakshmi, okay, but there is one more angle to it. There is also called Kuber angle to it also. I don't know how many people know about it. So लक्ष्मी और कुबेर को हमेशा साथ साथ मानते हैं. ऐसा कहते हैं कि कुबेर इज लाइक अ कस्टोडियन ऑफ लक्ष्मी, कस्टोडियन ऑफ गोल्ड ऑफ लक्ष्मी. तो इफ यू लुक एट प्रैक्टिकल एंगल, इफ यू हैव अ गोल्ड कॉइन, okay, and if you have a cash, right, there are very high chances you will end up using cash.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
Because it's so
absolutely.
liquid. तो आप देखो
True.
लक्ष्मी कैश के रूप में आती है.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you convert that into gold, it becomes कुबेर.
Yeah.
So the what you call monetary aspect of that cash is actually converted into gold.
Correct.
So that's why our the previous generation and thousands of years people considered buying gold, you know, because you're storing cash in that, and it again it's a fantastic hedge against inflation, right? You know, it kept on rising.
Absolutely.
Right? And of course, it's played a big role. In fact, if you also look at the first currency also was introduced almost 100 AD and printed, coined in India, which was used as a currency.
Which was gold.
Which was gold,
Oh,
just
wow.
with gold. Of course, the other metals also played role, but gold was the first one. And if you look at various currency, whether it's Portugal or whether it is US dollar, every currency had its own life. 100 years, 200 years, you know, but gold was always there thousands of years, and gold is still today. Gold is the only asset class which is money, and it's the only asset class which is not a credit. Otherwise, all asset classes are actually credit.
Correct.
True, absolutely. So, as you kind of covered, it's been there since centuries. I have one thought, like, you know, gold is such an intricate part of our traditions, cultures, in Indian traditions. So, what are your views there?
Yeah, so any festivity, it's celebrated towards growth, okay, and growth means again prosperity. Growth is again connected to Lakshmi. So whether it is New Maharashtrian New Year, which is Gudi Padwa, or Onam, okay, yeah. So anywhere there, anytime there is a auspicious date or festival, we always tend to start with gold. Okay, because gold is also Akshay Tritiya.
Yes.
You know, if you look at what is Akshay Tritiya, which does not decay.
Oh.
Okay, and gold is actually, if you could look at it, never decays. The amount of gold which is there in the earth thousands of years ago, today also it is same, because it does not get decay. Like if you look at any other like oil or gas, you can consume and it is converted. It's
Yeah.
gone.
Such an interesting take.
Yeah, but here it's not, you know, it's actually remains. So whether it is Makar Sankranti या अक्षय तृतीया हो गया, when you want to actually start a new life, करवा चौथ, इनफैक्ट ऐसे कहते हैं कि करवा चौथ के दिन जब सोना गिफ्ट किया जाता है तो बॉन्ड बिटवीन हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ, दैट कपल एक्चुअली ग्रोज. ओके, दिवाली for that matter, right? So Dhanatrayadashi, Dhanateras.
Yeah.
So all those festivals, definitely we have a huge relation, connection with prosperity and happiness is Lakshmi. Because Lakshmi brings that happiness and we convert that into gold for our future generations.
True. Yeah, and that's why if you kind of know, like, since in weddings and all, also people kind of give gold as gifts.
Correct.
And since generation, like your grandmother would have saved some gold for you, and then that would go.
And
Yeah,
especially if there's a girl child, it just happened with one of our friend. He had a child, and we all of us just decided to give a gold coin to her.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because the female or girl child is considered as Lakshmi, right? And
Absolutely.
so much of emotional and spiritual connection. But there is a wealth creation angle also to it. That subtly if somebody it's imbibed in our mind.
Absolutely.
Gold is also very versatile in nature. So 1 ounce of gold can be converted into a flat sheet of 7 square meter. 1 ounce of gold can be converted into 80 kilometers of a thin wire. So that's the versatility which gold offers. So for example, in 2010, if you gifted somebody a 10,000 rupees on their birthday or on the occasion of Akshaya Tritiya or Diwali or Dhanteras, the same amount value, if not invested elsewhere, would be around 5,200 to 5,300 today. But if you would have gifted 10,000 rupees worth of gold to that particular person as a gift, the value of that particular thing would be 57 to 58,000, maybe 60,000 today.
Oh,
So that is
wow,
what
that
gold
much
does.
alpha, is it?
Yes, that is what gold does, because you don't sell your gold unless and until you are in some some event, some emergency, or there is some event, and but cash will be used in various factors.
Absolutely.
So this is what the power of gold is.
Yeah. So, like we covered India. So, what about global? Like, is gold as valued globally?
Globally, also cultural significances are there in gold. So in India, it is more of festival and wedding and religious purposes. In Middle East, also it is used in wedding and religious purposes. And Europe, if you see, it is more of artifacts. Historical artifacts are used. And in America, it is more of gifting purposes. So in China, it is a sign of symbol of prosperity. So they also use it for gifting purposes a lot. And also jewelry is very big in China. So each and every continent have their own way of procuring gold, storing gold, and using it in their daily lifestyle.
Okay.
Some or the other way.
Wow, across the globe. That's
Across the globe,
interesting.
yes.
In fact, if you look at Turkish explorers, when they were looking at how world big is, they're trying to identify different lands, and they landed up in South America, Brazil and all, and they saw all these, tribals. They are wearing gold, right? So it is not that we are the learned only. We understand gold. It's been that the culture talks about. It's somewhere it's language of God or language of prosperity, which they also knew. So they were using this as a coin, they were using this as a jewelry, right? It has a relevance. So somewhere people know it without teaching them also why gold is important.
Yeah.
So that kind of prosperity or auspicity actually connected with gold.
Absolutely. So this kind of says that gold is kind of associated some way with wealth creation, right?
Correct.
So coming kind of pondering upon that thought and coming to the next point, how would you kind of define this in terms of wealth creation and gold? Like, what would you say there?
Yeah. So if you see, gold is a perfect inflation hedge. What do you mean by inflation hedge? Whenever inflation goes up, महंगाई बढ़ती है, okay, तब सोना महंगा होता है.
Absolutely.
Okay. There is one study which was done in Britain, which is around in late 90s, that if you had bought something in 400 years ago with 1 ounce of gold, the same thing you could buy it with 1 ounce of gold after 400 years also. And this study is actually available. So that means, as inflation goes up, you basically your purchasing power remains intact.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
that's the importance of gold. Now, this is one angle about inflation, but look at the other angle. If you look at other asset classes like equity and gold, whenever these two asset classes are in trouble, gold actually is positive. Okay. Whenever the world is in stress, right? Whether it is global stress, war stress, or financial crisis, people leave equity and debt market, but they run to gold. So gold is also considered a safe haven. Gold has to be part of your portfolio across the period, right?
Okay.
So that's one way to look at, and because of the negative correlation with gold and equity and debt, okay, because they are doing their behavior and gold behavior is very different. It's a complementary to building portfolio. That's second angle. Third angle, gold also can be considered as cash. The cash which does not have inflation. The inflation does not affect to gold, right? So whenever you are not sure what to do, you can always buy gold. right? And whenever you see an opportunity, you can always invest in other asset classes. So that's how you can use tactically also, short term also, gold in your portfolio.
So you said that you can always buy gold, whenever you are in doubt as to where should I invest. But in our country, a lot of people look at buying physical gold.
Right.
So, as in, I don't know if that's the real value of gold. Will that comes according? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So see, if you look at gold prices, we will see the prices have risen. People have made people or prices show that there is a growth, substantial growth. But the moment you go to physical market, वहाँ क्या होता है? आप if you go to buy a gold coin also, you have to pay making charges.
So what happens is the gold is in 1 kg bar format,
Yeah.
and that's how it is procured. In India, it is only banks are allowed to import gold and nobody else is allowed. So banks import this gold from the mines across the globe.
Okay.
This gold is then further sold to the bullion players in the market.
Okay.
And few of them are market makers. So mutual fund only deal with market makers. I cannot go to a random guy and just buy gold with him. It is not possible in mutual fund.
Okay.
So we have a designated market makers. We trade only with them. So we buy in 1 kg format. So there is no making charge involved. There is nothing involved. But if you go to a retail store and if you buy a 10 gram coin, this 1 kg bar is converted into that 10 gram coin. There is a photo of that god, for example, or if not, if that particular bullion player is there, his marking is there in that. This all involves certain cost. The packaging is there. They are kind of sealed in a concealed pack so that the quality is not degraded.
Okay.
So these all involve certain costs. So for example, if 10 gram worth of gold is currently at 1 lakh rupees, but if you go to buy 10 grams of gold in the market, it will be sold at 1 lakh 3,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. So
So
that
I
2
have a
3,000 rupees
question.
extra you end up paying because
Okay.
you are buying physical.
Absolutely.
But with ETF, it doesn't happen that way. The only fees which you pay is the expense ratio of that particular fund.
So you mentioned that you buy physical gold. So I want to understand for the viewers here and for myself that do you actually buy physical gold when someone invests in ETFs and gold funds?
So yes, we do buy physical gold,
Okay.
and the same is stored in a vault. And our custodian in our case is Deutsche Bank. The gold is insured. If anything happens to that particular gold, the same is insured, so there is no risk involved. The gold bar have a specific series, so the same is audited by SEBI, and also our external auditors are there who time to time audit the stock on our behalf. So it's pretty safe basically. And for if I compare to physical gold which you're storing at your place that is not insured, and there is always a risk, because if any natural calamity happened, that gold is not insured. If you keep it in the locker, something happens to the bank, and there is no specific amount which you will get. You will just get sometimes of the annual fees of that particular locker. So this is a very rare event, but it may happen. So that risk is there. But when you invest in ETF, that risk is also not there because your gold is insured for all the natural calamities. So that's the benefit of investing in ETFs.
Wow. So multiple points here, and the most important point is security, because there is some part of risk when you're putting your physical gold in the bank locker. Very, very important point. Coming to the next point, which is gold ETF versus FOF. Can you tell our viewers as to what's the difference between both of these?
So the only primary difference between ETF and FOF is in FOF, somebody who doesn't have a demat account can also invest. Whether ETF, anybody can invest, but you need a demat account for the same. So
Okay.
this is the primary difference. So the expense ratio on the fund of fund side would be slightly more than the ETF. So that's some point which you need to make sure before.
So coming to the expense ratio that you mentioned, I want to understand this. Now, when you buy physical gold, right? Like for example, I buy jewelry. Like most of households in India would be buying gold in the form of jewelry.
Correct.
But whenever I buy jewelry, there's always something called as making charges associated
Correct.
with it. Now, how does that differentiate with the expense ratio that you mentioned? Like, is there a comparison?
So actually to compare jewelry with ETF would not be the ideal choice because jewelry is something which you consume, like you wear it and then there is prestige associated with it. So that would not be the right benchmark to compare because jewelry will obviously have a lot of design and then there is a making charge, and from maker to maker, the making charge would evolve, from 4% to 15% to 20% in case of temple jewelry. So that is not the right thing to compare with gold ETF. But yes, that making charge dilutes your investment for sure, because that making charges, you will not get it. You just pay it. You will not get whenever you want to sell it in the market.
In ETFs or FOFs, how do you kind of ensure that?
So currently the quality is like we buy only LBMA marked gold. So that is what we buy and that is what we sell. So there is no question of making charges. There is no question of purity. We buy 995 always. So that's the standard which all the mutual fund ETFs have to follow. And so there is no question of making charges and the purity and any risk involved. So whatever you pay, the return of the gold will reflect in the return which you generate in your portfolio.
Okay. You mentioned LBMA.
LBMA.
What is that? Could you explain to our viewers?
That is London Market Bullion Association marked. Basically, it is certified by LBMA that this bar is LBMA certified.
Okay, so it's something like a hallmark that you would have on jewelry.
Yes.
It is something to do with that.
Now,
Yes.
if you look at from the Indian investors, तो हमारा क्या है कि we every occasion we buy gold, right? अगर coin खरीदेंगे या jewelry खरीदेंगे, but every time there is a making charges, every time premium and discount which you buy. Suppose you want to buy gold for your daughter's marriage or anything to gift, right? Every हम occasion में buy करते हैं, but every time we are actually buying at premium.
Correct.
Right. So what you will see that कि जो gold का return आता है वो हमारे physical gold से नहीं आता. Storage cost, storage risk is always there. Rather than if you want to consume, see for Indian investors, consumption will be always high. Okay. But जब consume करना है तब उसको निकालो ना.
Correct.
Till the time आप हर महीना SIP कर सकते हो. अगर आप ETF आपके पास है, डीमैट अकाउंट है, यू कैन बाई ETF. अगर आपके पास डीमैट अकाउंट नहीं है, फंड ऑफ फंड खरीदो आप. एवरी मंथ यू कैन बाय और ओकेजन के बाद उस टाइम में आप बेच दो, बिकॉज उतना ही गोल्ड का प्राइस आपको मिलेगा. जो भी प्लस माइनस होगा यू कैन ऐड इट एंड बाय गोल्ड फॉर दैट ओकेजन. आई हैव बीन डूइंग इट फॉर लास्ट 16-17 ईयर्स. एवरी मंथ SIP करता हूँ. ओके हर साल हमें हमारी मैडम को गिफ्ट देना पड़ता है दिवाली के लिए. एंड एक्चुअली बट इट्स वेरी कॉस्ट एफिशिएंट एंड वेरी इजी ऑल्सो. आई डोंट हैव टू गो टू एनी ज्वेलर. मुझे ऑनलाइन खरीद लूँ मैं, राइट. एंड देन साल में वो बेच के आई कैन बाय फिजिकल गोल्ड. इट्स सो कन्वीनियंट, राइट. दूसरी चीज़ क्या होगा, सपोज यू बाय फिजिकल गोल्ड और एनी ज्वेलरी टुडे, ओके 10 years down the line your design changes, right, the preferences changes. What will happen, right? So तब they can decide कि चलो उस सोने के पैसे के साथ मुझे सोना खरीदना है या प्लैटिनम खरीदना है या चांदी खरीदना है या कुछ और खरीदना है या कोई वेकेशन करना है.
Correct.
Right, so many different uses of ETF gold or fund, this paper gold, which is and again at what cost, right? 50 पैसा साल का खर्चा होगा आपका अगर ETF खरीदोगे तो. फंड ऑफ फंड खरीदोगे और 10-15 पैसा एक्स्ट्रा, मतलब 60-65 पैसे का खर्चा होगा. उससे ज़्यादा खर्चा होता नहीं है साल का. दैट्स ऑल. उसमें कस्टडी, इंश्योरेंस, प्योरिटी, सिक्योरिटी, सेफ्टी, एवरीथिंग इज बीन टेकन केयर बाय एंड कन्वीनियंस ऑल्सो.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's an interesting fact now that we know. Let's get into performance of gold. Like, how has, like, we all know, like, gold has been on a rally. Like, all of you all know that it's gone from, 30 something since last 5 to 7 years back to now, almost, or, kind of past 1 lakh. So tell me as to what do you think, how do you think, where we are, where we stand, and where do we see
So last
ourselves?
1 year as on today, I think the gold has given return of 42%. And for 3 years, the return would be approximately 22 to 23%. And for 5 years, the average would be around 12%, slightly more than 12%. So that's what the performance of gold is.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
But long term also, if you see, it's a double digit return, right? But gold का एक nature है, and that's where it creates confusion in investors' mind. वो क्या होता है कि you see performance 4-5 years and there's no performance for some time.
Correct.
And then there is again a performance. तो ये 5 साल के लिए ना ये थोड़ा gold non lucrative बन जाता है कि यार ये attractive नहीं है, why should I invest? We don't know कब कोरोना आएगा. वी डोंट नो कब फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आएगा. हमें पता नहीं था यूक्रेन क्राइसिस होगा. हमें पता नहीं था कि अमेरिका हमारे साथ टैरिफ के जो भी प्रेशर्स चल रहे हैं, वेदर इट इज़ टैरिफ वॉर, वेदर इट इज़ एक्चुअल वॉर. तो यू शुड ऑलवेज हैव दिस एन इंश्योरेंस, राइट. तो वो सी हम उसको इक्विटी की तरह नहीं देख सकते. इक्विटी हैज़ अ डिफरेंट पर्पज ऑल टुगेदर, राइट. आप बिजनेस में पैसा लगा रहे हो, डेट की तरह भी नहीं दे सकते, बिकॉज यू आर नॉट पेइंग एनीबडी लोन, नोबडी इज पेइंग इंटरेस्ट ऑन इट.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's how it's a very good combination. That's why multi-asset options, why they are becoming so popular. But एक गलती इन्वेस्टर्स कर रहे हैं कि दे आर एक्चुअली बाइंग मल्टी एसेट फंड, विच इज़ नॉट अ बैड ऑप्शन. बट नहीं, मैंने मल्टी एसेट में डाल दिया, बट मल्टी एसेट में 10% है. आपके पोर्टफोलियो मल्टी एसेट का 20% है, उसका 10% यानी 2% ऑफ योर एंटायर पोर्टफोलियो इज गोल्ड.
करेक्ट.
राइट. आइडियली यू शुड हैव 10% इंश्योरेंस. जैसे खरीदते हैं ना कि आपका जितना इनकम हो उसका 5 गुना या 10 गुना का जो इंश्योरेंस का वैल्यू होना है, वैसे होना चाहिए. 10% गोल्ड आपके पोर्टफोलियो में होना चाहिए.
So
Across the
coming to
period.
that, a 35-year-old in a metro, how much percent of the portfolio do you think he should have in gold?
See, always you should have 10%. Okay, if you're conservative, or you're aggressive, तो थोड़ा आप कम रख सकते हो, 7.5% रखो. 5% रखने से कुछ doesn't affect your portfolio at all. So 10% is good number. Aggressive भी आप 15% जाइए.
Correct.
15% से ज़्यादा आप जाते हो ना, तो actually it starts, आपका portfolio performance थोड़ा कम हो जाता है.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a 10 to 15%
Is
is
the
good
ideal
enough
number.
for any investor portfolio.
Okay. Great. So, we kind of covered most of the points in terms of performance. How one very important point in the current overall scenario, if you see currently, like globally, right? We see so many, like we see tariff wars of sorts, we see Russian and Ukraine crisis, all of that. What we've seen in these crises, and what I hope we continue to see as well, is that gold has somewhere given stability throughout in any crisis that we've seen. Any thoughts, both of y'all, any thoughts?
So what
on that?
happens is basically central government starts buying whenever there is a crisis, and China has started buying very aggressively in the last 5 years post-COVID era. After the Russia-US conflict, also when they were not allowed to use the US treasuries, everybody is scared that they don't want to be invested in fiat currencies to a very high extent. So everybody is trying to diversify their portfolio, and all the central banks are currently investing in gold. So before, in the last decade, the average buying of the central banks were 10% of the total supply of a particular year, but currently it stands at 20%. So the demand of central bank has almost been double now.
Okay.
So this speaks volume about what impact central banks are having on the gold prices currently.
Yeah, and whenever there is a crisis, now central banks are hiking so much their gold reserve. अगर वो लोग invest कर रहे हैं, they understand economy, they understand global economy, they understand their own balance sheet better than anybody, any normal individual, right? तो कहीं ना कहीं uncertainties दिख रही है, उनको दिख रही है, और हमारे सामने भी दिख रही है since कोरोना, उसके बाद यूक्रेन क्राइसिस एंड देन डिफरेंट वॉर्स. सो अनसर्टनिटी के टाइम पे आपको जो क्या करना होगा, आपका पोर्टफोलियो एलोकेशन इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. वी हैव सीन अ फैंटास्टिक रैली, लाइक 40% रिटर्न अगर हमने गोल्ड का देखा है, कितने लोगों को मिला अगर मैं पूछूंगा, राइट, तो पीपल हैव नॉट मेड दैट रिटर्न बिकॉज वो फोमो इफेक्ट हो गया कि यार आई मिस्ड इट आउट, बिकॉज हमें लगा गोल्ड महंगा है महंगा है महंगा है, राइट. तो दैट्स नॉट हाउ वन शुड लुक एट. और गोल्ड से शायद रिटर्न नहीं बनेगा, यू नेवर नो अबाउट क्राइसिस. ओके, तो वो पहले तो लॉट ऑफ पीपल हैव मिस्ड आउट. तो आपके पोर्टफोलियो एलोकेशन सही रखिए. वी कांट एक्सपेक्ट डबल डिजिट रिटर्न ईयर ऑन ईयर like this, but you can always have a right asset allocation which can help in crisis अगर आगे से यहाँ से unstability आती है तो, right. So please do look at this asset class. Okay, it has played for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, the importance has not actually come down at all. आपके पोर्टफोलियो में होना चाहिए 10 से 15%. Definitely you should look at. That's how what I would like to.
So adding to his point, one fun fact for y'all: India added 64 tons of its gold in 2024, of its gold reserve. So that itself is a big point because of the maybe the volatility and instability is where India as well as the countries globally are adding points.
Correct,
as
correct.
And since you touch upon this, एक बहुत अच्छा ऑप्शन था जो लास्ट ईयर से बंद हो गया है, which was your gold sovereign gold bonds, right? फैंटास्टिक ऑप्शन था. मतलब यू विल गेट 2.5% इंटरेस्ट, टैक्स फ्री इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा, प्लस द गोल्ड रेट आपको मिलेगा. तो बहुत बढ़िया ऑप्शन था, बट अभी वो है नहीं, राइट. एंड नाउ द ओनली गुड ऑप्शन, द कॉस्ट एफिशिएंट ऑप्शन इज ETF और फंड ऑफ फंड फॉर यू.
Correct.
Right. So definitely you should consider that.
Absolutely. Great. So I think we've covered most of the points now. What I would want to kind of wrap up this webinar with like a few rapid fire questions with both our speakers. So let's start with Prateek.
Okay.
Prateek, gold has just hit all-time highs, and we're too late to invest in it, or is it too? So we kind of covered it, but I wanted for you to know, we are
So
all-time high. Are we too late, or we should go for it?
my answer is same, that you should not follow the price. You just stick to your portfolio allocation.
Great.
मैं इसको थोड़ा अलग एंगल दूंगा. किसी ने कहा है कि सोने की कीमत कौन पूछता है. ओके, 17,000 में भी सोना महंगा था, 1 लाख में भी सोना महंगा था, बट हमने सोना खरीदना बंद किया है क्या? शायद कम करेंगे, बंद नहीं करेंगे, बिकॉज दैट टॉक्स अबाउट द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ दिस प्रेशियस मेटल. ओके, सो दिस विल ऑलवेज बी इन डिमांड for various reasons, whether it is currency, whether it is industrial demand, whether it is jewelry, but or also as a part of prosperity, as a part of wealth, right? So don't worry about 1 लाख रुपए, ये शायद यहाँ से 2 लाख भी चला जाए, okay? But people will always buy gold.
Correct,
okay.
correct.
True. And that is happening since centuries.
Centuries, yes.
So don't forget. Next question, physical or digital? Making charges, storage costs,
So
you know, we
given
have
all the
expense
cost involved in
ratios.
physical, digital will always be cheaper, and it will be always safer. More than cheaper, it is cheaper, but then the more emphasis should be on the safer part.
Saving.
Yes.
True. So it's cheaper and it's safer. So I think it's an obvious choice. Next question, portfolio allocation. What do you think, like, what, as we kind of covered it, but again, what do you think one's portfolio should have what percent?
Yeah, 10%, on aggressive side 15%, not more than that.
Okay. Coming to a very interesting take on it, wanted to ask one question on liquidity. So think about it. Today we are at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I wanted to understand, if I need cash, how fast can I convert 2 lakhs of physical gold versus gold ETF units into money?
So the physical gold will be faster for sure in this, but then that will be sold at a discount. So for example, if the price is at 1 lakh rupees, it will be sold at 99,500 or 99,000 or 98,500. It won't be sold at 1 lakh rupees. But in case of ETF, it will be sold at 1 lakh rupees, but then the settlement will be done on a T+2 basis. Your account will be credited on a T+2 basis. So this is where the difference between physical and ETF is.
Yeah, तो आप 2 दिन रुकोगे तो आपको पूरा पैसा मिलेगा.
Yes.
अगर आप अभी कभी पैसा चाहिए तो आपको डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. दैट्स द डिफरेंस बिटवीन फिजिकल एंड ETF.
And liquidity. So you get better liquidity in this in physical, but you get it at a
And again, this
discounted
liquidity
rate.
is backed up by the AMC. Okay, तो it's not that कि आपको अगर कोई शेयर मार्केट में नहीं मिला, like if you are buying a share, any stock, okay, there might be a liquidity crunch, okay, but यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं होता, because when your investor comes to sell gold, we actually have a physical gold which we sell
Sell in
हम
the
बेचते हैं, वो पैसा आपको देते हैं.
Yes.
जब भी आपको नया सोना खरीदना है तब हम नया सोना खरीदते हैं आपके पैसे से और आपको यूनिट्स देते हैं, राइट? सो इट्स एक्चुअली नॉट अ बैलेंस शीट गोल्ड. फिजिकल इज बैक्ड अप बाय फिजिकल गोल्ड. तो डोंट वरी अबाउट द लिक्विडिटी इफ यू आर बाइंग एन ETF फॉर्मेट. अगर फंड ऑफ फंड कर रहे हैं तो वैसे भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बिकॉज आपको मार्केट में जाना नहीं है, डीमैट अकाउंट की जाना जरूर नहीं है, बट वी बैकअप बाय फिजिकल गोल्ड.
Great. I think we've covered most of the points, and hopefully this session was valuable to you. Thank you, Vikash. Thank you, Prateek, for kind of joining, our podcast. And we will come back with some interesting podcasts very soon. So stay tuned. Also, don't forget, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the platforms for such insightful, insights. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिम के अधीन है. योजना से संबंधित सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें.